Your car cranks slow, or it clicks and won't start at all. You're already picturing a $200 battery and a tow, but a huge number of dead battery, no starts come down to corroded or loose battery terminals, and the fix costs about $6.15 in your driveway. Most people clean it wrong, and the problem comes right back, and I'll show you how to do it so it stays gone. Stick around because I'm covering several cheap battery and starting fixes, not just one. Let me be straight, because that's the whole point here. This trick works when your battery is fine, but the connection is bad. Corrosion and loose clamps choke the electricity flowing out of a perfectly good battery. Clean that up, and the car starts like new. But if your battery is truly old and dead, no amount of cleaning brings it back. I'll show you how to tell the difference so you don't waste money either direction. Here's the plan. First, the main fix. Cleaning corroded terminals the right way so it stays fixed. Second, how to test whether your battery is actually dead or just disconnected. Third, 2 more cheap starting problem fixes people miss. And stick around for the mistake that eats batteries alive. Let's talk about the main problem, corrosion. Your battery has 2 posts and 2 cable clamps bolt onto them. That connection carries every amp your car needs to crank the engine. Over time, the battery gives off tiny amounts of acidic vapor, and that vapor reacts with the metal to form corrosion. That crusty white, blue, or greenish powder you've probably seen caked around the terminals. That crust is an insulator. It physically blocks the flow of electricity, so even though your battery might be fully charged and healthy, the power can't get through cleanly. The result feels exactly like a dying battery. Slow cranking, clicking, dim lights, or a no start. Loose clamps cause the same thing. If the clamp isn't tight on the post, the connection is weak and intermittent. Here's what makes this so frustrating. People take the car to a shop. The shop says the battery's connection was bad, cleans it up, maybe tests the battery, and charges you an hour of labor, often $100 to $150. Or worse, a parts store load tests a good battery on a corroded connection, gets a bad reading, and sells you a brand new battery you didn't need. $200 gone. The terminals corrode again on the new one because nobody fixed the underlying cause. You paid $200 to relocate the problem. The actual fix is cheap, and once you know it, you'll never get caught by it again. Now the main fix, step by step. Here's what you need: a wire brush or a dedicated battery terminal cleaning brush, which costs around $5 to $8 at any parts store, a wrench that fits your terminal clamp bolts, usually 8, 10, or 13 millimeter, gloves and eye protection. For cleaning, you can use a battery terminal cleaner spray for a few dollars, or a simple paste of baking soda and water which neutralizes the acid. Optional but worth it. A small tube of dielectric grease or anti-corrosion terminal protectant spray, around $5 to keep it from coming back. Safety first, and battery acid is no joke. Wear gloves and eye protection. The corrosion is acidic, and so is what's inside the battery. Work in a ventilated spot. No open flames or sparks, because batteries can vent hydrogen gas, which is flammable. And remember the order for disconnecting, because it matters. Step 1. Turn the car off and pop the hood. Identify the positive terminal, marked with a plus sign and often a red cover, and the negative, marked with a minus sign. Step 2. Disconnect the negative terminal first. Always negative first. Loosen the clamp bolt and work the clamp off the post. Doing negative first reduces the risk of a short if your wrench touches metal. Then disconnect the positive. Step 3. Inspect. If you see heavy corrosion, this was very likely your problem. If you used baking soda paste, dab it onto the corroded areas. It'll fizz as it neutralizes the acid. Then scrub the posts and the inside of the clamps with your wire brush until you see clean, shiny metal on both. A terminal brush has a round bit for the inside of the clamp and a cup for the post, which makes this easy. Step 4. Wipe everything dry with a clean rag. Make sure no baking soda residue or moisture is left sitting on the terminals. Step 5. Reconnect in reverse order. Positive first this time, then negative last. Tighten the clamps so they're snug and don't twist by hand, but don't crank on them like a lug nut because you can damage the post or clamp. Step 6, and this is the step most people skip. Protect the connection. Apply a thin coat of dielectric grease or spray on terminal protectant over the connected terminals. This seals out the moisture and vapor that cause corrosion in the first place. Skip this and the crust comes back in months. Do it and you can go years clean. This one step is the difference between a real fix and a temporary one. Step 7. Start the car. If corrosion was the issue, it should fire right up, often noticeably stronger than before. So what should you realistically expect? I'll undersell it on purpose. If your slow crank or no start was caused by corroded or loose terminals, this fix very often brings the car right back to normal starting immediately. That's the satisfying win, and it's common because corroded terminals are one of the most frequent starting problems out there. But I'm not going to promise it fixes every no start, because it won't. If your battery is genuinely old, think 4 to 6 years or more, or it's been deeply drained many times, cleaning the terminals might help a little or not at all, because the battery itself is worn out. Cleaning a connection can't restore a battery that's lost its capacity. The good news is you've now ruled out the cheap, common cause for $6 before spending $200. And if it didn't fix it, the next step tells you for sure whether the battery is the real problem, which is exactly what saved me from buying a battery I didn't need. Related fix number 1, actually testing the battery instead of guessing. Before anyone sells you a new battery, you want to know if it's truly bad. A basic multimeter costs around $10 to $20 and pays for itself the first time you use it. With the car off, set it to DC volts and touch the probes to the terminals. A healthy, rested battery reads around 12.6 volts. Around 12.4 is okay, around 12.2 is low, and 12.0 or below means it's significantly discharged. Then start the car and check again. With the engine running, you should see roughly 13.7 to 14, 7 volts, which tells you the alternator is charging. If it stays down around 12 with the engine running, your alternator might not be charging, and that's a different problem worth knowing about before you replace the wrong part. Even better, most auto parts stores will test your battery and charging system for free, right in the parking lot. They hook up a tester that load tests the battery and reads the alternator. Just make sure your terminals are clean first, because a corroded connection can make a good battery flunk the test. That's how people get talked into batteries they don't need. Clean first, test second. This one habit can save you a couple $100 and point you at the real culprit instead of a guess. Related fix number 2, parasitic drain and a simple battery maintainer. Here's a scenario lots of people know. The car sits a few days and the battery's dead, but it seems fine when driven daily. That's often a parasitic drain, something pulling small power while the car is off, like a dome light staying on, a bad accessory, or just a battery that's weak enough that normal standby draw kills it overnight. The cheap first move. Check that all your interior lights, trunk light, and glovebox light actually turn off. A stuck courtesy light can drain a battery overnight, and that's a free fix. Next, if your car sits for long stretches, a battery maintainer, sometimes called a trickle charger or tender, costs around $20 to $30. You plug it in, clip it to the battery, and it keeps the charge topped off without overcharging. For people with a weekend car, a motorcycle, an RV, or anyone who travels and leaves a car parked, a maintainer pays for itself by saving the battery from deep discharges that shorten its life. Repeatedly draining a battery flat is one of the fastest ways to kill it. So preventing that is real money saved over the years. Now let's bust the viral fake versions of this, because some of them are nonsense and a couple can hurt you. Myth number 1. Pouring Coca-Cola on your battery terminals to clean corrosion. Yes, the acid in soda will fizz and remove some crust, but you're leaving sugar and sticky residue all over your terminals, which attracts moisture and grime, and can make corrosion worse over time. Baking soda and water neutralizes acid without the sugary mess and costs almost nothing. Use that instead. Myth number 2. The idea that tapping or hitting the battery or starter with a hammer is a real fix. Occasionally smacking a starter gets a worn one to engage one more time, but that's a dying starter symptom, not a fix. And it's a sign to replace the starter, not a trick to rely on. Banging on a battery accomplishes nothing good and risks damage. Myth number 3. That you can fully recharge a dead battery just by idling the engine for a few minutes. Idling charges very slowly. A deeply drained battery needs a real drive, or, better, a proper charger to recover, and even then a battery that drained because it's worn out won't truly bounce back. Idling in your driveway expecting a miracle just wastes gas. And myth number 4. Pricey battery additives, or pills you drop in the cells to revive a dead battery. Save your money. For a normal sealed battery, these don't deliver reliable, lasting results, and messing with the cells on a sealed battery isn't something to gamble on. If the battery's shot, replace it. Let's cover the common mistakes that cost people money or damage parts. Mistake 1. Disconnecting in the wrong order. Negative off first, positive on last. Get that habit down to avoid shorts. Mistake 2. Skipping the protectant. If you clean the terminals but don't seal them, you'll be doing this again by next year. The dielectric grease or spray is what makes it last. Mistake 3. Over-tightening the clamps and cracking a terminal or stripping the bolt. Snug and secure, not gorilla tight. Mistake 4. Not cleaning the terminals before a parts store test, then getting sold a battery you didn't need because the dirty connection faked a bad reading. Mistake 5. Ignoring why the battery keeps dying. If you clean and protect and it still goes flat, stop replacing batteries and find the drain or check the alternator. Throwing new batteries at a charging problem is just feeding money into a hole. Here's the honest caveat. These fixes are perfect for corroded terminals, loose connections, and ruling out a battery before you buy one. But some symptoms point to bigger issues. If your battery is several years old and failing load tests, it's time to replace it, and that's normal wear, not something to fight. If your alternator isn't charging, if you smell rotten eggs near the battery, which can mean it's overcharging or failing, if the case is swollen or leaking, or if you have electrical gremlins you can't trace, get a professional involved. A swollen or leaking battery especially should be handled carefully and replaced. Cheap fixes are for connections and prevention, not for a battery or charging system that's actually done. Let's recap. A lot of dead battery no starts are really corroded or loose terminals, and a $6 brush plus a little protectant fixes that in 15 minutes, saving you a $200 battery you didn't need. A cheap multimeter or a free parts store test tells you whether the battery's truly bad, and a battery maintainer keeps a parked car from killing its battery in the first place. If this saved you money, hit like and subscribe, because the next video is one a lot of you asked for. How to tell the difference between a bad battery, a bad alternator, and a bad starter in under 5 minutes, so you replace the right part the first time. I'll see you there.